in my earlier opening statements about making Papua New Guinea safe, meaning the total defense of Papua New Guinea brings in those three elements of total defense, our international relations and obligations, and of course internal security. Now, and I will dwell on internal security for a while. And the signs and symptoms of a failing state, unfortunately I'll stay here, are already evident in Papua New Guinea.
Right.
And how do we make Papua New Guinea safe when all these signs and symptoms of a society that sometimes is dysfunctional? I was the chairman of Guns Control in 2005, and my committee traveled right around Papua New Guinea to address the issue of illegal guns. We made 244 recommendations. We gave it to the then Prime Minister, Sir Michael Somare, and our Grand Chief, Sir Michael Somare, and the leader of the opposition, former Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. 244 recommendations. And out of that study of the guns control itself, I identified one of the significant, most daring threat against this country is the use of guns, whether it's government issue or licensed guns or illegal guns or homemade guns, as one of the biggest threats against security and investment. To date, the guns control report has not been tabled, and the 244 recommendations as recommended has not been implemented.
Not a single one.
Not a single one. So it goes back to government. Is the government serious about looking at that particular report? Because that report was chartered and sponsored from the United Nations Security Council.
Right.
To the extent that funding came from the UN, Australia, New Zealand government, and PNG government. We had a highly experienced technical officer from New York attached to my committee for 8 months.
Right.
And we came up with that report. So that was the first indication that I have said. I will state here publicly that guns is one of the use of guns for illegal purposes is a threat against our internal security. The second most glaring indications that we're now experiencing is the urban drift, where districts and electorates and provinces are no longer conducive and safe and attractive for people to stay, and they migrate, they drift into metropolitan cities like Port Moresby, Lae, Mount Hagen, and Madang, where their aspirations and their desire, their dreams to find a better life in the city is no longer there. So they cluster into settlements and they create illegal settlements. And unfortunately, out of illegal settlements, they're all clustered into tribal cells. So if you come to Port Moresby, you go to the Morobe block. You go to where the Taris and Engans are. And then in between, there's a spread of ethnic groupings within the cities. So when you have a specific incident, say a robbery or an accident, then obviously you expect retaliation from that particular ethnic group. So in doing so, urban drift has the bigger downside of development within the city. It stresses state agencies like the police, and the police have come under serious public scrutiny in the past years, few months and weeks and days, because they're unable to control this particular aspect of urban drifts and squatting, and out of that, the social issues that I discuss about elements of national security, which is social considerations or element, is when people are unemployed, they have no opportunities, they're frustrated, they don't have access to clean water, sanitation, they become desperate, and obviously they target those who have. So that's one of the daring indicators of a country that's struggling to stand on its feet, sadly. And the other aspects that I can, from the top of my head, can think of immediately is that our basic public services are collapsing. I mean, in the past few months and days, we hear of hospitals having no workers, no proper health facilities, running out of medicine. Infant mortality is at its highest. Disease outbreak. And we are unable to contain a lot of these challenges in the health sector. And of course, the free education has its downside, because you're putting masses through in the name of free education, but there's insufficient material, access to teachers, housing. It's just become a social quagmire in which the nation is really struggling to sustain its population, so that people are given what they're promised to, which is to provide government effective services, so that they can stay in the provinces, they can stay in the electorates, rather than drift in the town. And apart from that, as we can see, is that there seems to be a breakdown in the way, especially the police force is conducting its business, what they're chartered to do, which is to basically enforce law and order using minimum force. We hear every year that the police force is liable for damages to properties, policemen held accountable for manslaughter, murder. I mean, it's just becoming a big concern that a very important state institution like the police force is struggling. And I might add that the current government is doing everything possible to address the issue of law and order within the ranks. But the police department also has its challenges. They have not been taken care of properly. The welfare has not been met, the pay and conditions. Many policemen and women are not housed in barracks. They're forced to live in settlements, in relatives. So you can understand that the problems were not created overnight, but it's all the current police hierarchy is carrying the liabilities of previous generation. So these are some of the concerns that's affecting the internal security of the aspect of total defense of our country. And it's sad, but it's important for us to state this so that the government can take ownership. Nobody will fix our problems. No donor country will come and say, this is what we're going to do in the social sector, in the economic sector, in the political sector, in the military sector. I'm coming back to national security. The government has to take ownership of making Papua New Guinea safe, secure, prosperous, so that it becomes a definite destination for investment, and tourism, and at the same time create job opportunities so Papua New Guineans themselves, the citizens themselves, can enjoy being Papua New Guineans.